Good morning, dear students. So, hopefully, you're all fine and having a great time. Please stay at home and be safe. Today, we are going to study the second stanza of the poem From a Railway Carriage, written by Robert Louis Stevenson. See, we have already done the first stanza of the poem. So before moving on to the second stanza, let's just recollect what we have studied in the previous class. For that, let me just ask you a few questions. I'll just turn off my camera so that you can view the presentation in a full screen mode without any disturbance. So let's recollect what was being taught in the last class. First of all, do you guys remember who was the author of this poem? Who wrote this poem? Yes, it is R.L. Stevenson. R.L. Stevenson wrote this poem. Does the train move through a village or city? See the images. What are being discussed in last class? What was the images that was visible from the railway carriage? Was it of a village or of a city? Yes, the train was moving through a village, or the train is moving through a village, and the sights that we see from the railway carriage belong to a village, or it's a countryside view. Now let's move on to the summary of the second stanza. In the second stanza, the poet is describing the scenes as seen from the window of the railway carriage. He could see a child climbing quickly to gather brambles. He could also see a meadow full of daisies, a tram as well as a cart pulled by a man as well. He could catch a glimpse of a river and a mill near it. But all these scenes disappear quickly as the train moves forward. So we see that many things are being seen from the railway carriage, but the carriage is moving so fast that these scenes quickly seem to disappear. They are not actually disappearing, the train is just moving forward at a high speed. Now it's the time for individual recitation. So, dear students, take the poem and read the second stanza individually and quietly. Hopefully, you all can see the slide with the second stanza on your screen. Please read it silently and underline the unfamiliar words. So it's now time for collaborative reading. I'll divide you guys into groups and you can discuss the content of the poem with the group mates. If you are ready, you can ask the unfamiliar words, or if there is any other unfamiliar words which your group mates find difficult, you can mark them also. So guys, hopefully you guys have marked the unfamiliar words, and now let's move to the vocabulary session so that we can get to know the meaning of these unfamiliar words. So the first word is bramble. Bramble means a picky shrub of rose family. So in this prickly shrub, you see the image, you'll see small fruits are there, and these brambles are being collected by the child. If you see the lines, you know that these brambles are being collected by a child, and the child is alone. Now the second word is clamber. Clamber means to move or climb in an awkward and laborious way using both hands and feet. So it is an extremely difficult kind of movement. You are climbing up something using both your hands and feet. So that is known as clamber. See the image to get a better understanding. See, that kid is actually clambering. Now, as a third word, scramble. Scramble means to quickly move forward, especially with a difficulty. Okay, so this is not just a usual movement, but you move quickly forward with difficulty. See the image, that person is really trying to move forward at a quicker pace, and that too with much difficulty. He's already swinging his back, he's trying to put steps forward than the normal pace of walking. So that is scramble. Now, tramp. Tramp is a person who has no home or job, who travels from place to place. So you might see such people along the street. They might be here in your town for some days. Afterwards, they'll travel and move on to some other town. They don't have a permanent residence or a house where they stay permanently. So such people are known as tramp. Lump. Lump also is kind of a movement. When you are moving with great difficulty, then it is known as lump. See the image? That person is trying to move forward but is not able to move forward in a smooth way because he is trying to pull something which is having a huge weight. So to move with difficulty means to lump. Now mill. Mill is a building equipped with machinery for grinding grains. Whenever there are whenever there's lots of wheat grains in our family, we'll normally go to the mill to get it converted into wheat flour. Same with the rice. Rice becomes rice flour in the mills because it's a building which is equipped with grinding of the grains. Now it's a time for moral recitation. Here is a child who clambers and scrambles, all by himself and gathering brambles. Here is a tramp who stands and gazes, and here is the green for stringing the daisies. Here is a cart run away in the road, lumping along with man and lord. And here is a mill, and there is a river, each a glimpse and gone forever. So that's the second stanza. Now I'll give you some time so that you guys can read this stanza, and let's ask some scaffolding questions after that. Okay, dear students, Hopefully, you must have read the stanza and now ready to answer the scaffolding questions. So, the first question is, what is the child doing? Yes, the child is gathering brambles. He's a child who clambers and scrambles, all by himself gathering brambles. So, the child here is alone, is scrambling, and he's moving using his hands and legs, and he's gathering brambles. Now, the next question. What are the last two things seen from the carriage? While you are traveling through the railway carriage, or while you are reading the stanza, you see that two things are being described towards the last lines. So, what are the two things that are being described towards the end? Or what are the two things seen from the carriage by the poet towards the end of the poem? So, dear students, try to remember what are the two things that he saw last when he was in the railway carriage. Hopefully, you guys must have found the answer. Yes, it's a mill and a river. So, there was a mill, and by the side of the mill, there was a river. These were the last scenes seen by the poet in this poetry, where the railway carriage is moving forward. Moving on, let's look at the poetic devices in this second stanza. So, we are getting to know about assonance today. Assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds in a line. Assonance is the repetition of what sounds? Vowel sounds in a line. Example, on a proud, round, clouding, white, high night. See, I've marked or underlined the repeated sounds or the vowel sounds O and in the second line, see, white, high, night. I sound is being repeated. So, let's move on to some activities. First of all, we have learned about assonance. So, let us find some examples for assonance from the poem itself. So, dear students, just check if there are any repeated words with this vowel sounds that comes under the category of assonance. Okay, dear students, hopefully you must have found the line in which assonance is used. Yes, here is a child who clambers and scrambles. There is a tramp who stands and gazes. I've underlined the repeated sounds so that you guys can note it down on your textbook. So, these lines show how assonance, the poetic device assonance, is used in this second stanza. Now is the time for you to answer your discourse activity question. So the question is, can you name any three scenes one would see through the window of a train during a journey? I'll once again repeat the question. Can you name any three scenes one would see through the window of a train during a journey? Take your time, discuss it with your group members, and write down the answer. Okay, students, if you have written the answer, please exchange your activity card to the nearby group, and the group members of the other groups can check if the answer is correct, if there is some editing that needs to be done. Alright, dear students, hopefully you must have written the answer, and a peer editing was also done for the answer. Now is the time for you guys to see my version of answer. Okay, so some scenes one would see through the window of a train during a journey include the rivers flowing, the hills, the fields, etc. See, these are just few things that I have mentioned. There may be other things like meadows, you can see cows, you can see buildings, you can see small houses, hills, etc. So, we have come to the end of the session where we have dealt with the second stanza of the poem From a Railway Carriage by R.L. Stevenson. The second stanza also describes many sceneries or the sights that the poet has seen from the railway carriage. He ends the stanza by saying that all these sights are there, but they quickly disappear. It's not actually the sights disappearing, it is the train moving forward at a fast pace. So now it's a time for your follow-up activity. Take down your notes and write the question. Write an appreciation for the poem From a Railway Carriage. So you guys have to read the entire poem and then write an appreciation of this poem. Hopefully you guys will do that and submit your homework in the next class. Okay, dear students, take care and be safe. Thank you.